Welcome everybody to the Inner Carnivore Podcast, episode 21, with my special guest, Marko, the owner of Independence Ark. We are going to get into that real quick. Before we do, whether you guys are streaming on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or watching the full episode on YouTube, you guys could do a huge favor, like, subscribe, leave a review, rate the episode. It really helps us out. Jumping right in, how are you doing, Marko?
Doing good, Jason. Nice to almost meet you in person. This is as close as we can get right now.
For sure.
Yes.
All right, I am going to... I think we actually have... Oh, man. All right, so bear with me. I have a double echo going because I think this actually is going to work on Twitter.
Gotcha.
All right. I gotta post this. Let me see if I can actually... So I can see it.
I'm trying not to touch anything from my end because I'm just shocked that for me it's all working out here with internet stuff. So hopefully you can hear me good.
Yeah, no, you're perfect. I'm just trying to figure out how to make this go live. Because I actually, everything's... Looks like it's showing up. All right, I'll have to mess with that next time.
Go.
It's supposed. I think I should have done a started immediately, because right now it's like, hey, it's supposed to be scheduled.
Yeah, you got a little different color screen sometimes. Whatever you're pressing, I don't know if that makes the corners turn kind of like blue.
Yeah.
Like right now.
All right.
Yep.
All right. We won't want to say. Yeah. So that's the. That's telling you it's picking up audio. So when you start talking, it'll show up with that. The Twitter one, I can't quite get it to go from scheduled to actually showing. So That's okay. I might have to mess with that some other times, but I'll edit out this little portion and we'll still have a regular episode. So.
Okay.
All right. So, Marko, owner of Independence Ark. For people who don't know what that is, what is it that Independence Ark does, and what is your guys' mission, and how did you get started with it?
So we started out during the so-called pandemic in 2020. I was in Florida for a while. It was one of those situations where I really enjoyed Florida. I loved it, but at the same time, it never felt like home. When we moved out of Las Vegas, it was for a job change for my wife, right? I just felt like it was almost like surreal. We were right on the beach, and then all this thing happened with, back in the day, Corona. I don't even know if I can say the word out because my channel has been so censored. You know how it is. So I'm going to try to keep it PG as much as possible. So I decided to just, I want to get out in the country. I want to have food for my own family because I grew up in really rough environment, socialist/communist regime back in the mid 90s when I was a teenager. And I kind of saw where United States is going. I see a playbook, the Marxist playbook. Step by step, I've been warning people on YouTube. The channel never got really big, but there was a lot of people, maybe 500-600 followers I have, that started saying, I can't believe at the beginning I thought you were just another tinfoiled hat talking about crazy stuff. And the whole thing that happened with the health event, the infamous health event, woke a lot of people up in so many ways. And that's I kind of I just wanted to get away from the city. I wanted to get away from that, just too much bureaucracy, HOA fee. I can't stand that. Like in Florida, just to do an add-on on your house, good luck. You got to go through so many, and it's not New Jersey, it's not LA. You're thinking DeSantis, Florida, it's going to be. No, it is just basically socialism. It's what it is. You can't do anything unless you go through 15, 20 people to get basics done. And I did not like that. I just wanted more freedom. And when the whole thing with Corona started, it really made it a lot easier. So we made the decision to go in. I didn't think it was going to turn into a farm-to-table nationwide operation, and now it looks like possibly going to Canada as well, if we can get through Trudeau somehow. And like I said, I did not see that part coming because that was not really the plan. It was just to have our own cattle for ourselves, chickens, turkeys, access to water, which is key. That's kind of what I wanted to do. And it just happened. And how it happened, cut the long story short, we ended up having to buy just two cows, and this older guy, I didn't understand much. I'm sure he didn't understand me with my European accent. This was like definitely an old country man, and he was just I did not understand what he was saying. He's basically was saying, listen, I can't get out of the truck, I'm too old. If you wanted two cows, I got nine. You got to pick the two you want. I said, well, how do I get them out? Their herd mentality. You can't just pick a cow. And I had a couple of really strong Arkansas country guys with me here that were working on the property, veterans. I support a lot of veterans, by the way. I served, but just a little bit in United States. And they did not know what to do either, right? I said, well, if these guys can't get the two cows I wanted, how am I going to get these? And I think you can kind of hear where the story is going. So I called the guy that I actually contacted, not the driver that told me that he's not getting out of the truck. And I said, listen, man, I wanted two cows. You got nine. I can't get the two out, and your driver is not helping me. What do I do? And obviously, he played a trick on me to basically buy all nine. Because if you kind of like, I guess, scare them from one side, kind of hit the trailer, they all ran out at the same time. So I ended up with nine cows instead of two. And then some of the family friends started buying it. They were just loving it. They never really had meat like that. They were always just buying from the store. And they were like, well, it's different, so different. We loved it, especially ground beef. And it turned into, I said, well, there is something here. And that's how all of it happened. Not kind of a long answer, but kind of had to say that because I thought it was interesting how it happened.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for people listening who have seen Independence Ark on some of my my pictures and my videos, kind of how I got involved with you guys is, and I always get this question, right? And I know you guys have gone it and you've addressed it a couple times. Everybody takes, when I don't want to say influence, whenever an account that has any type of following starts mentioning people, everybody's mind always goes to this like, oh, what's happening? And I know you guys have addressed it, but basically what they've done over at Independence is they reached out to a couple people and said, hey, we're sending you some meat. I was like, okay. I was like, that's cool. I'm never going to say no to that. And as I do in a lot of my videos, if I'm using anything that's relatively unique, like I've done it with Snake River Farms. Snake River Farms does not need me to promote their stuff. But if I use it, I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool. And so I tagged them in a couple of my videos. And honestly, I've tried my best not to offer an opinion on your guys's. I just do the same videos that I do and I post them. And from my standpoint, it's been a great marketing tool for you guys because you get people posting your stuff. It looks fantastic, right? You guys, like, nobody can deny that. And then it gets people interested, and all of a sudden there's this buzz that got generated, and I think it's been fantastic. And you guys have been fantastic to work with. I actually have family in Arkansas. I have a cousin that moved out there a couple years ago. Don't ask me where because I can't tell you exactly, but I texted him. I was like, hey, do you know where Sulphur Rock, Arkansas is? And he's like, hold on. It's 4.5 hours away. And I was like, oh, cool. There's this like cattle farm that, I've gotten a little bit of beef from. He's like, it makes sense. There's absolutely nothing else out there. Okay, nothing. Fair enough.
Yes. Yeah, that's why he had to look it up. It's 600 people, population of 600. I went from Chicago to Las Vegas to Reddington Beach, close to St. Pete's, where it's nothing but population. I mean, it is just insane how many people. Like, you're going just to go to Publix in Florida, which was half a mile away, I think. 30 minutes if you're driving. So I was just walking, and I would just get a little bit of groceries, go back, because I would be stuck in traffic. You got your air on high all the time. And it's just, it's not worth it. I'm just going to walk. It's just too populated out here. It's you might see a random horse or a cow just hanging out, not even in the fence. I love it, man. It's internet may be a problem. That's why I had a problem logging on and all that. But I kind of, I mean, not kind of. I really love it. I would not change it for anything. Maybe down the road, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, a year from now, I change my mind. I just don't see it happening. They say never, but I just don't see it. You would literally have to kill me to get me out of where I'm at right now. I just cannot explain it any differently until you actually live this lifestyle versus being in the city. And I've done both now, so I know the difference.
And I think why so many people are drawn not necessarily just to independence, but to you personally, is this comes up a lot, right? So you followed a bunch of my stuff, a number of the accounts that I follow as well, the mutuals we have, and there's always this like ongoing battle with vegans, right? And
Oh, yeah.
one of the major ones is if you had to look your food in the eye and kill it, a lot less people would be vegan. And an overwhelming response is be like, man, you don't understand how many people wish we could do what you're doing right now, which is move out to the middle of nowhere, have a self-sustaining farm, raise our own cattle. Like, we wish we could do that. So hearing your guys' story and how it kind of started that way and how it's turned into this, this operation where you now ship beef nationwide we can really relate to that. Because I grew up how you wanted to start. We would have one or two cows, and then we would raise it. We'd buy it as a calf. We'd raise it up. We'd butcher it, stock it in the freezer, get another calf, do it all over again, right? And that never fully sustained us, but I very much understand that life,
Okay.
and I very much would rather do that than what I'm doing right now. It's just not always economically plausible, right? Like at some point, somebody's got to make money. So it's that helps us relate to you guys, and you personally, because a lot of us are like, man, that's awesome. Like, I really wish I could do that. And so I think we have a great respect for what it is that you guys are doing. And the other thing is you guys bring to light the plight of like small farms, right? I don't know how many times, this is what's been really good about, being involved with you guys is, I don't know how many times people ask, hey, like, what are good options for local beef? Jeez, man, I don't like, this is my life, right? Like, I do beef, and that's not always an easy question to answer. There's the main ones, right? Like, there's big ones, like I mentioned, Snake River Farms, but these are all like massive operations. And then you start looking into it and you're like, man, that's just like, I don't know if I can swing that. So from you guys, what has it been like being a small farm trying to get into, I guess, this game? Because everybody knows, for the most part, beef is controlled by a number of super large farms. What has it been like trying to go from, hey, I'm just trying to raise cows on my own and to have something to sustain, to turning this into a nationwide operation?
Well, first, I'm going to address what you said a little bit earlier. I'm going to connect the dots when you talked about the influencers and what's going on. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. Yeah, and I put a video out. Nobody is on payroll from Independence Ark. It is me and my wife. I got a bunch of kids. They're still young. I got a big gap. One is already in college in IU, Indiana University. So I'm trying to get the ones that are younger to start helping out. We got you're not on payroll. Nobody's on payroll. And I put that out there. We just love to send out the beef for people to see pictures. They can't taste it unless they got it, but they can just tell. I just haven't heard anyone ever say, like, when you look at the beef and the way it looks, you can just tell that it's going to be good food. Maybe people overcook it, or maybe they don't like grass fed. They're just all about corn. I understand preferences and all that. But when you look, you can just tell it's healthy, it's fresh, like you said on the pictures, and let the picture speak itself. So, yeah, our goal was, listen, this is what we're going to do. For me, challenge has always been uh, just like another day in office or out of the office. It doesn't matter. Like, to me, I went through civil war, hyperinflation, uh, survived bullets shot at me. Like, for me, anything big is really small. And I actually sweat more small things than I do big things. So that's kind of my personality. So take on this type of task was really not that big of a deal. I said, listen, if people really don't like it, if we can't get it done, then it's not going to take off. And I'm perfectly fine with that because I got food for my family, for my friends, for the neighborhood. We give out a lot of eggs. We put them up front. Sometimes, if it's a lot of eggs, we do sell some. When people drive by, we have a box. Sometimes they just take it. They don't even leave a few bucks. It's fine. I'm thinking if I can cover the feed for them, like scratch grain or something like that for the chickens. That was kind of like I was not planning to make money out of selling eggs. But with beef, it's a different story. As beef back in the day, I believe Russia, the sore subject, Russia, it was beef was the first form of money, actually. So I'm looking at this is going to be, fortunately for small farms and people that connect with small farms like us, like yourself and so many other people on social media, they're going to have connections with small farms to have access to actual healthy foods because, like I said, unfortunately, the way we are going, I think having steaks is going to be like you are in the upper class to have steaks in the United States. It is coming. I believe we might possibly even see hyperinflation, but I don't want to divert from that due to all the currency printing and everything. I follow markets a lot and economy overall globally. And I've seen it with firsthand. I lived it. And like I said, I can see the playbook. So I just wanted to, like I said, address that disclaimer right there that nobody is paid from Independence Ark. If you wanted to tweet, post, whatever you call it, about Independence Ark, that's solely up to you. Our advertising has just started. People haven't seen anything yet. I like to think big. Right now, we have another order from an interesting account, and this is where Independence Ark is going to probably get a lot more hate from the possibly vegan or liberal side. James O'Keefe is going to be consuming Independence Ark that has over 2 million followers on X. I mean, things are, like I said, for me, it's thinking big is been nothing. And I encourage all of your followers, if you are thinking that it's very complicated to move out of the city to go into the country, you are correct. It is a big move. It is not easy. I had a lot of little kids at the time, like one newborn, had several cars I had to transport. It was not an easy decision. Nobody had a job at the time. We were dealing with, I guess, deadly pandemic, right? I took a leap of faith and I knew I can start from scratch because it's not the first time. But for someone who hasn't done anything like that, I can understand the fear of what if it doesn't work out, right? But if you don't try, you will never know. If you don't try to get into shape, if you don't try carnivore diet, you will never know. So this is kind of my mindset, and I hope that helps a lot of other people. But the main goal also was to cut down on your overhead, on your expenses. Like for instance, just to give, I think this is something that can really help a lot of people. Like you're looking for these, I call them not sexy places like Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, or whatever, boring, right? You can get a lot of land. You can find something for, let's say, $300,000 with a house with 10, 15 acres that has pasture land, that has live creek in the back. And a lot of people are working from home. Their income is social media or whatever. And if you unload on the place that you have, let's say in New York City, and decide to make a move, it is not, in my opinion, that bad, because if your mortgage, if your rent is $4,000, $3,000, in some cases six, seven, eight, you might be paying $1,200 or $1,300, but you're not making as much. You took a 50, 60, 70% pay cut, but your overhead now is like, it was almost no stress coming here. As like my house in Las Vegas was big, but I was in the quarter acre lot, and every time my kids would go, I did not have a pool. It was an awesome home, but we were thinking about getting a pool, so I would have one of those little setups outside, and I would think like some neighbor creep would be staring, at my daughter when she's out there swimming. I just did not like that feeling. even though I was in a 12 home gated community in Las Vegas, I did not like the fact that the house, the other one, is so close to me. I just, when I was younger in my 20s and definitely even early 30s, I was looking for that. I lived in Las Vegas. I played poker full time on the strip. I kind of wanted to be around people. But now, as I get more kids, I wanted to get away from that just for the safety purposes. And I've lived my life in that lifestyle, so I don't miss it. And if I want it, I can just go for a week, and do my thing, which I do. I'm not stuck out here. I travel a lot. So hopefully that helps a little bit for those that are on the fence. There are ways. It's not easy, but it's possible. It's doable.
Yeah, and so I'm not as drastic. But I left. I was born and raised in the state of Washington, and due to, you know, again, without, if I get this my show, I'll get political if I want to. Um, due to a whole bunch of issues with the state, we decided to move, and my family's there, my wife's family's there. My sister with her, my nieces and nephews lived close, and we up and moved to Arizona, which is almost 1,800 miles away. To where we had a couple friends. Like my brother lived here at one point, but doesn't anymore. And we did the same thing. We're like, we got to get out. We're gonna go. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough to load all your stuff up and move to a brand new city. And we had one job lined up, but I quit my job in order to make it happen. And so yeah, it's definitely scary, but it definitely can be done for sure. And yeah, to piggyback off what you were saying, when we're talking about what Independence Ark does, with the influencers and the stuff they send out, like we're not even talking about affiliate stuff. Like there's literally nothing for anybody who has questions on Independence and how they interact with us. It's literally like we just have conversations, and you've sent out some beef, and I've made some videos, and that's literally it. There's no, like I said, no contracts, no affiliation, no nothing. Like, and it's been refreshing because anybody who has any type of following, we get the affiliation stuff. Hey, you want to be an affiliate for me? Hey, do you want to do this? Hey, do you want to do that? So yeah, to anybody who's has questions on that, and I know
Yes.
you've done a video, so people can definitely go check that out. So
Yes.
a couple questions for people who, first off, I actually went on your guys' website. Did you guys just redo your website?
Yeah, my wife does all that. I'm not. Yeah, I'm old school. I to turn the computer on for me, that's basically it. Yeah.
No, I
So
love it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I just logged on here and I was like, man, this is new. You guys got like a chat option. Uh, yeah, no, this is super good. So for people who see grass fed, right? That's a big one. Like, what's grass fed? What is grass fed? Why is grass fed better? And why does it cost more?
Well, number one thing, and people can do their own research on this, so it doesn't seem like I'm just being biased here. I was just looking at from my own experience what I've noticed. The way it tastes, I actually like the taste a lot better. Maybe some steaks that are more fatty, but when it comes to roasts, ground beef, to me, it's not comparable. That's number one. Number two, grass fed beef does have more minerals than any other form of whatever this cattle was fed with, corn or Skittles or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of stuff out there that unfortunately is true. There is a lot of made up stuff, but iodine is a big deal, okay, because of thyroid issues. It's a silent killer in a way, in especially in the United States when it comes to women. A lot of issues with that. The iodine is not even mentioned at the doctor's office. They don't check it. Your thyroid gets out of whack. Your hormones. Iodine is a big deal, and you can only find iodine in seaweed, which tastes terrible. Try that, and good luck. I tried it. It is not fun at all. Maybe somebody can do it. That's going to be the best form. From my research, as you know, I'm not a doctor. I want to put that out there. I'm just like trying to make sense out of this nonsense, and nonsense there is plenty of it. So I look at the seaweed for, of course, but then the grass fed has iodine in it. Corn fed beef does not. And to me, it's just logic, right? Horses are supposed to graze. They're not supposed to eat anything else. You can feed them and say, this tastes really good. I mean, you can go to McDonald's or maybe Freddy's or something and say the burger tastes really good. Trust me, I don't mind those sometimes. It's not McDonald's. To me, it's the worst one. But there are some burger joints that you just bite into and you're like, wow, but try to get that ground beef out with and don't have any bread, don't have any ketchup, don't have any pickle, don't have any mayo. Just take that and you're gonna taste nothing but salt, and it's not iodine. It is just over salted, so you don't taste the non-freshness that you are getting. So this is why I urge people to do their own research and understand that it's just common sense. Also, cows digest way easier because they're made like that. God made them like that to digest grass the way they're supposed to through how many stomachs they got, right? 3, I guess. Not corn. So it puts stress on their livers, it puts stress on their bodies overall, and that meat is going to taste completely different as the cows are under stress or they're not treated well. So some people say, oh, it tastes grassy. Yes, because who knows what was happening with those cows? Were they force fed in feedlots where they can't move? It's basically their heads go through, I'm sure you know that, through like a little space and they can't move, and they put all kinds of corn or leftover foods from restaurants in front of them to beef them up, and they sell them because they get bigger, so you get more. It takes a while for the grass-fed beef to get up to size that farmers can make food. This is not easy. It takes time to get that going. So that's another reason why a lot of farmers just go with corn-fed, because they can beef them up real quick, literally beef them up real quick, and go from there. So they get more meat. So I hope that helped a little bit. You can follow up with a few more questions on that. I think it's important for people to know. And again, do your own research for sure. Don't listen to me. Just do your own research.
Yeah, and that's been my experiences, as you said, with the fatty, and in what I've experienced from grass-fed versus grain-fed. Most of us get that taste of grain-fed, and that's what we're used to, right? And so when you go away from it, you do get a little bit of the grassy, gamey taste. In my experience, that's mostly in those fat pieces, right? The actual meat to me tastes better. The fat's a little bit of an adjustment, but when you factor in exactly what you're saying, right? When you talk about, especially carnivore, like we're all about like a species appropriate diet. Like, what are we supposed to be eating? Like, you hit it on the head. Like, cows are supposed to eat grass. Like, that's literally what they're supposed to eat. And the grain is literally a way to put on, 5, 6, 7, 800 pounds in a very short amount of time, because, and again, I'm not trying to speak for you. This is just my personal, research that I've done and my experience, because you're selling it by the pound, right? You're not selling a head of cattle. You're selling 1,200 pounds of beef, or you're selling 800 pounds of beef, or whatever
Correct.
it is. And if I can jack that up, I'm going to make more money. Which, I'm not saying that's anything wrong with that, right? Like, I'm all for capitalism, all for making money, but there is a difference, right? So, you hit it on the head. Like, ground beef for me is the big one. That's where I definitely, it's not only the look and the feel, but it is the taste. And I like the taste of the grass-fed better. But when I open up, and it's not like your guys is fantastic, but it's grass-fed in general, from a good source, when you open up and you are like forming burgers with grass-fed versus, the regular grain-fed that you buy from the supermarket, it's a noticeable difference. Like, there's no confusing the two. And I'm not bashing, grain-fed. I still buy plenty of meat from the supermarkets because it's hard to pass up cheap beef. But it's a noticeable difference, and it's very apparent when you take pictures and you do videos, and that's what people see. A couple other points that you had that I've done in my research is you also get a better omega-3 to omega-6 profile on grass-fed versus grain-fed, and you get vitamin C, right? If somebody will go on, this will happen. Somebody will go on Google and go, beef has no vitamin C. I'm like, cool, the USDA doesn't check for vitamin C in beef. So of course they're going to report zero, but there's a little bit, and there's even more in grass-fed than there is in grain-fed. So benefits for sure, but it also comes with a little more of a cost. And I think that's something that as an individual you have to weigh. Like what's the importance? How much more am I willing to pay? And is that more of a benefit than, going to my local Kroger's and picking up a tube of ground beef that may or may not have pink slime in it?
Yep, that's basically what happens a lot. And I had I'm going to send this video when it's done for sure. When you have it, I'm going to tag. I had one of our first customers, now friends, from Alabama, Cindy. I have family in Alabama on my wife's side, Tuscaloosa, right? So go to a lot of games. Big football fan here, especially college football. And we go there a lot. So I said, you know what? She contacted us. I said, listen, it's not really on my way because it was a little bit of a drive to go to her house first. But I said, listen, I will be in the state of Alabama and I'm going to bring you this beef. And I was getting to her house and I see cows everywhere as I was getting close. And this is in Huntsville, right? And it's a pretty big, especially where you live, like where I live, 600 population. Huntsville looks like to me now like a huge city, right? And right before I got to her house, there was all this nice pasture land with cows. And I got there and I think she got like 50 or 100 pounds of beef. I can't remember, about several years ago. And I said, do you mind if I ask you a question? And she's like, yeah, what is it? I said, you got all these cows here and you live in Alabama. It's not like you're downtown, you're in Manhattan or something, right? New Jersey. And she says, well, I tried twice and ground beef just tasted terrible from local farms. And I've heard it from other people too, not just from her, that unfortunately some smaller farms, like you're talking about the pink sludge, whatever it's called, mixing in the ground beef is key, all right? Because half of your cow is ground beef. That's what people don't understand. And I didn't either until I got into it. I started to learn all this. Of course, you don't get a lot of steaks out of a cow. If you get 1,000-pound cow, you're lucky to get 30 pounds of ribeyes out of 1,000-pound cow. Sometimes if it's a smaller cow and you got to get her in, you might get 15 pounds of ribeye. And then there is some people, they want to buy 10 or 15 pounds and they wonder, why is it that much? Well, I can't fulfill any other orders now. I have to bring another cow to slaughter because now the ribeyes are gone. Well, big corporations don't have that issue. They get them pennies on the dollar and they can manipulate and do whatever they want. So this is why for a lot of people that I think it's another kind of like a big point to understand that half of the cow is literally ground beef, no matter what. So if you get 100 pounds of 100-pound order, you're going to get this amount of steaks, this amount of ribs, this amount of cubes, this amount of shanks, and you're going to get about 40 to 50 pounds of ground beef for your 100-pound order. And that ground beef better be good because now you just wasted all your money. And the best way to check it is just make a hamburger with nothing, maybe just a little salt on it, and then taste it before you put mayo and all that other crap. And then just kind of close your eyes and try not to taste it much because you know it's bad beef, but you want to camouflage, hide the bad taste by putting all the extra junk that's also, obviously, we know now for a fact it's full of who knows what is just bad for you. That's just also what I learned being a carnivore for the first time in 2024. I started the carnivore month of January, and I feel like I leaned up more. I felt better mentally. It was a really good experience for me. Again, I'm just saying from my own experience. I don't know for sure exactly what's going on, but I just felt good. So I'm just going to stick with it as much as I can.
Yeah, that's it. It's a really good point because, and I remember an interaction where somebody's like, "Hey, why don't you guys sell? Why can't I just buy strips off your website, or why can't I just buy ribeye?" And we've become so ingrained to the a la carte, right? Like I can go to Fry's right now, Kroger, and sift through and go, nope, I want that super nice looking ribeye, or I want that super nice looking strip, or I want this chuck roast, and I can pick and choose everything I want. and I can get it for a decent price. And then I try to go order some and I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I have all of these options? Like, it's we get so ingrained into this supermarket mentality, right? Like I
Yeah,
can order off Amazon, I can order
convenience.
off, yes.
Convenience store, right? It's convenient. You're paying for that convenience, even though you're paying maybe less per pound, but then you're going to be looking at whatever doctor bills you have because you're eating who knows what. And we've seen, I mean, through researches from all these doctors, they went on their own, and you know who I'm talking about, from Ken Berry to Baker to so many of them that are doing all this research, and people can say, well, I don't believe in this. Cholesterol is actually really bad for you. It's good. I'm just going with the way I feel, and I urge everybody to do the same. And again, I don't also bash corn-fed beef. I would not mind at all to have a steak that's corn-fed, like a big 2 pound ribeye. I would destroy that thing, eat all the fat. Don't worry. I'm good with it. Okay. But I just don't know, when I see that grass fed, like let's say sirloin roast, when you take that out of the bag before you even do any kind of dry brining, it looks alive. It looks like almost there is a heartbeat to it. It looks so fresh, so healthy. It looks like meat should look like, because that's what it is. It's not artificial red that you see bright red on meat at the store, which is sprayed with gas, by the way, to make it look appealing. Again, people can do their own research on this. They want a bright red color when you see, and the grass fed is going to be dark. In some cases, a little bit like almost like a purple tone to it,
Mhm.
and then that it's going to be grass-fed beef. Now, some people did say that they felt like grass-fed was really gamey, and the answer for that is, number one, the cow was not treated right, and it's going to taste more gamey, basically like wild animal. And number two, if they were having really, there is a lot of different types of grass out there, or of course hay, which is essentially the same thing. And if hay is not up to standard and the cow is in distressed situation, your grass-fed beef is going to taste really gamey. And I haven't heard anyone yet say that our beef tasted gamey. It tastes different than corn-fed because it's actually real beef. And cows are supposed to graze, like we said earlier. To me, that's just nobody can argue that. We can say, yes, of course, cow will eat your ice cream. Me and you can go right now and feed them ice cream, and then you can say, look, they're eating ice cream. Does it mean it's good for them? I don't think so. They'll eat it.
Well, I mean, horse a little bit different, but you can't leave feed with a horse. A horse will eat itself to death.
Yeah,
Like if you give a horse too much grain, it will eat until it dies. So you can't quite go with this, oh, well, they ate it. Yeah, well, it's an animal. They'll eat almost anything that I put in front of it.
yeah,
That
yeah.
does not mean that that's appropriate for them.
That's right. I mean, pigs are obviously different, of course, literally different animal. Cows, I'm sure, are more selective. It's not like I'm trying it, but yeah, you bring that. Sometimes we do, and I disclose this on our website as well on the Q&A. I have to get them to go into the trailer, or I have to trick them to go in a different pasture where there's more green grass, or I got to work on the fence, whatever the case may be. So I will have some corn, some sweet feed, and give them occasionally to trick them, because they see that they're going for it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to feed them the plus. Honestly, it's those bags, they're expensive. Okay, so I don't know what type of corn or what kind of deals certain farms have, but I'm not interested in that. I just want to see my cows graze the grass I have, and then let it reproduce, grow back. They graze more. It's just, I look at it as the most beautiful thing. It's just passive income. You can tell that these cows are healthy. And the same thing around me here with all the farmers, what they do, they just have them graze. We have so much grass out here in Arkansas. It's awesome, and I just love it. Like I said, especially ground beef. That's my favorite. Ground beef and roasts by far. We do a lot of instant pot cooking like that with homemade bread my wife makes. and just go to town with that. Like it's so easy
No,
and
I
delicious.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I've had people ask a couple times, going back to the grain fed. Actually, I'll be doing an episode here with one of the more powerful stories that I've read, um, where like this guy was almost unsure if he should be doing. He's like a low carb keto, but he ate a lot of meat.
Hmm.
Unsure if he should be doing it because he couldn't afford grass fed or more premium cuts. And I was like, man, like first of all, just get like beef is better than nothing, right? Now, obviously, if you can afford it, it's best to know where your beef comes from. And one of the things how I differentiate what I'm cooking with is so ground beef especially. Now I don't eat raw ground beef. I'm not super into the beef tartare with hamburger just because it's a texture. Like that's not a great texture that I want to eat. But when I look at ground beef, I go, okay, does this look like something that feel okay eating raw? Right? Or is this something that I know I need to cook a little bit more in order to like protect myself because I don't know how this was processed?
That's
And
right.
I actually like one of the videos I did of your guys's, I did a stuffed burger and I had a bunch of people, oh my gosh, you got to cook that more. I'm like, no, like I would prefer my beef, my steaks to be rare and my ground beef to be like borderline rare to medium rare. Like maybe a tad into medium rare, but I don't want to cook the absolute crap out of it, right? Because
Hmm.
like that's not a good taste or flavor profile for me. And with something like we talk about the pink sludge, if I go to Kroger's and buy some ground beef, I'm probably going to cook it a little bit more because I'm not necessarily sure where this came from. I got ground beef in the fridge right now from you guys that I will cook, and I'll cook it. I'm not going to worry about cooking it too much because I know where it came from and I'm not too worried about it. That being said, I've got a sirloin from you guys that I will do a steak tartare with, and I'll eat it raw. And people are going to lose their minds me eating raw beef. But
I
when you
can't.
know
I
where it
can't
comes from,
wait. I can't
yeah,
wait to
when you
see
know where
that.
it comes from, like it's not that big of a deal. Beef in and of itself should not be something that you're afraid of. But when the majority of what your beef is buying is from the supermarket, you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know how it's being processed, you protect yourself by cooking it a little bit more. So it's,
Yeah,
you know,
and that's a great point. We know some people like Zach Strength. I'm sure you know
mm-hmm.
he basically sears it maybe a few seconds, and it's almost like tartare. I mean that's basically it. And he doesn't care what cuts he got. He'll make shank like that. Like he just loves the fact that he's got grass fed beef and it's just food for his body to nurture his body, his soul, and he's just going to town. And I'm not into rare at all. I'm medium rare. Probably shock a lot of people. I like it medium rare. And my hamburgers, I don't mind if I see a little blood in the hamburger. It's definitely never overcooked. But I'm not on the rare at all. So I go there. Another part, what I've noticed, and a lot of people said that, um, corn fed, when you're eating, let's say, a pound and a half, 2.5 pound, I can eat. I may not be a big guy like you, muscles wise, but I can eat, right? I can down some steak. People would be shocked. And when I would eat corn fed hamburger or a steak, I would feel satisfied, but a little heavy, like it doesn't settle right. It's almost like it's not like a brick, like when you go to a fast food joint sitting in your stomach, like an actual brick, but it just doesn't, it's not processed, just like cows don't process corn real well, like they do grass. What do you think humans are going to process corn fed beef? And all that fat that everybody keeps talking about. I don't know about that. I don't know if that fat from corn fed or whoever or whatever they fed those cows with is actually good for you. I'm going to stay away from that because even though if I feel like I'm in shape, I'm going to just stick with grass fed because I can eat pounds and pounds of it. If I don't use bread and just eat hamburger patties and eggs, I feel like I didn't eat anything and I'm not hungry. And that's something I've never felt before. It is the coolest thing I've ever experienced when it comes to eating food. It's hard to explain unless you actually do it yourself.
Yeah, that's honestly my biggest proponent of carnivore and why I started. most people that do carnivore, either they've heard about it so much that they're like, I'm going to give it a try, or it's the fact that they have some kind of, it's a last resort to address some kind of condition, right? Whether it's weight loss, whether it's a medical condition. Mine was legit because I was tired of that heavy feeling you're talking about. I was tired of bloating. I was tired of the, oh
Yes.
man, I need to wear my stretchy pants, right?
Yeah, it's
And
just not it just doesn't feel right. Something is
yeah,
off, and we now
and
know what it
nobody,
is.
people think they don't bloat. And I'm like, no, like once you actually don't bloat, once you can eat, I can do the same thing. I can eat a 2.5 pound ribeye right now. Well, maybe not right now. I ate a little bit before, but I can eat it in one sitting, get up and go work out, right?
Yeah.
And I challenge almost anybody on a standard diet, even a good diet, like whatever it is, to do the same thing. And most people, because I've experienced this in the past, most people will go, "Nah, man, I gotta let my food digest." Right? It's
Yeah,
the
what does
don't
that even
don't
mean?
swim 30
Yeah.
minutes after eating.
Yeah, don't move, just go to bed. But I can't go to bed because I don't feel comfortable. I can't do anything. Don't touch me. Like I've been there, done that my whole life up until I started eating beef, and especially again grass fed. There is also, to me, I've noticed a big difference when I'm not eating corn fed and bread and all that. I just go straight with meat. And I do love eggs, by the way. I can eat those. I'm eating a dozen eggs a day. I don't know if that's good for me or not. We'll find out. But I really like it. Yeah, I can eat egg with anything. So that's another part. Not to digress from beef, but I've noticed what a difference is to have your own eggs. Like we ran out of eggs, chickens. We had some meat birds, broilers. For those that are not familiar, those basically do what you said earlier. You put some scratch grain or whatever in front of them, or they're just eat to death, and they just kind of get very sloppy. They're dirty. They're completely different than egg layers. Are just completely different animal in so many ways than the meat bird. You got some dual chickens that can lay eggs and be meat birds. But these meat birds, they got you really like heavy chested. They get fat, and those are called the broilers for a reason, right? So when we had those, our egg layers did not want to lay because they were kind of like their habitat is disrupted. Is that the word? I probably mispronounced
Mm-hmm.
it, but they were disrupted and they did not lay. So I went to the store and I got, it was supposed to be some organic egg, whatever. I paid a little more, and it looked sick to me. Egg looked sick, looks more colorful in a way, like darker tone to it, versus that bright red that's sprayed with who knows what to make it look appealing. Eggs was the same wake up call, and I said, "Don't eat that. Don't touch it. I'll figure out. We're gonna get rid of those birds. It's time." They usually last, for those that are wondering, roughly 6 to 9 weeks, and then you just uh, get rid of them, butcher them yourself. I do myself. Turkeys, chickens, and all that. I just learned as it goes. I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm like as city slicker as you can be. I do not butcher cows. I have no interest in doing so. We have a USDA facility that's 45 minutes from us, and I can't say how happy I am with them, especially the way they do ground beef. Now, it happened a couple of times, honestly, out of thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of pounds of beef we had. I felt like a couple of times I found a little grizzle in the ground beef, depending who is working or got fired that day. They might catch a certain part that shouldn't go. But I'd say 99% of the time, it's like they're spot on. Because, like I said, you mess up ground beef, you mess everything up because it's half of your cow. And everything
Yeah.
goes with ground beef. I mean, from your tacos to if you are big, I know in Jersey out there, I know you're not in Jersey, but we have a lot of customers from Jersey. They're all about Italian food, pasta dishes, spaghetti sauces, all that stuff. You can use the ground beef is just meatloaf, obviously hamburgers. Like that is, a lot of people will say, well, oh, yeah, I'm getting 200 pounds and I'm going to get like 90 or 100 pounds of ground beef. You have no idea how quickly, especially if you are beef enthusiast, maybe not even a carnivore, just you love beef, how quickly it would go and how many meals you can make with that and make it with scrambled eggs or something just uh, dump in that pound and a half, 2 pound package of ground beef and go to town. I mean, it is so versatile, so tasty. To me, it's a no brainer, to have something like that. And I understand that some people don't have storage, maybe financial needs to go in bulk, but just to throw that out there too, you get also brisket and you get 50 pounds or so of steaks when you order large, and you save about 50 cents less per pound when you buy in bulk. But I understand, like I said, with storage and finances ready to go into that purchase like that, I get all that. But for those that do have those two things that are not that big of a deal, that's probably the best, whether they order from us or any other smaller farm out there. And I love to support small businesses every chance I get. So that's been my motto since I noticed what's going on with this country for a while now.
I actually had this conversation with a lady who messaged me on Twitter asking, because she was going to go talk to a local farm. I forget, she's in Georgia. I forget where the farm is. And she's like, hey, do you have to like tips? Like, because I'm trying to get them to understand that they can promote their stuff. And I was like, do you have to show them what Independence Ark has done? And she's like, yeah, I was going to, but I didn't want to like create any competition. I'm like, okay, first off, like every like local farm needs to be promoted out there. There's no like small local farm that's going to corner the beef market. Like at the end of the day, it's a whole bunch of Davids facing a couple of Goliaths when it comes to beef out there.
That's
And
right.
I completely agree. It's because even like I said earlier, getting the word out on small farms, even when you think of a local place to get beef, a lot of these ones that are being promoted, and not necessarily promoted, just hey, I'm using this steak or I'm cooking with this beef, they're large farms. Like I bring up Snake River. Like Snake River's not a small farm. I don't know if you would call them a even a local, because they're out of Idaho. But a lot of these the truly small farms don't have a very big presence, especially on social media. And I understand why, because that's a whole nother side to business, where you have these, generational ranchers that are just trying to do business like they've always done. And now they're trying to deal with this, digital world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely, there's been a couple posts where people are trying to get, like lists and groups of small local farms, because it's tough. Like, no matter where you're at, it's tough to find local farms that you can buy beef from. And then people get discouraged because they'll find one, or they're like, hey, does anybody have any recommendations? And somebody will send them a link and they're like, I can't pay $20 a pound. Like that's just too expensive for me. And then they just assume that's everybody, and then they just stop and they continue shopping at Costco or Kroger's or whatever it is. So I definitely agree with that. Like, get as many of these beef farms out there as possible. Anybody who is like your suggestion, I think a chest freezer is one of the best investments you can possibly have, because A, it allows you to buy in bulk. B, beef freezes for a very long time. The people will tell you that it's like a year shelf life. Guess what? If you really need it in a pinch, you can go a couple years of frozen beef. Like, you'll
Oh
be
yeah,
okay.
yeah. You would eat it 5 years old without
Yeah,
problem if it was frozen if you had to. But yeah, I would say about a year is. I've never had it a year. It goes pretty quickly, especially the way I eat now beef. But 7 cubic foot freezers. I made a video on this for those that didn't hear. At Walmart, I don't know if this makes sense. If in other states Walmarts would charge more, but out here in Arkansas, $180 to $200, 7 cubic foot freezer will give you about 200 pounds space for your beef, which will be good for a family of four for a year. Definitely not carnivore, but mediocre beef eaters, roughly a year, 7 cubic foot. And if you had, I have 6, 7, 8 of those freezers. And the reason I like those, we just recently, right before our interview, I had to go to Walmart to return a 7 cubic foot freezer because the light was on that it's working. And I've noticed it's now been 2 days and I felt it. And I was like, you know what? this is not like other freezers, brand new, right? Not completely frozen yet. Something's up. We already unloaded other ones, thankfully. Get all that beef out, and I'm going to return that because think about it if you had this cool, expensive, big ass freezer that can fit 500 pounds and something goes wrong. You want to have, for those again that have storage, I understand there's going to be a lot of city people immediately, oh, easy for you to say. People will find excuses for everything all the time and never get anything done. And I hope not you, I'm saying in general, people are not one of those that just sit on their hands and hope for things just to magically happen. So having more than one freezer is very important because of that. Like I said, I just speaking from experience. Like just imagine if I didn't check, if you don't have so many orders in 3 days, I would have been dealing with. I would have to eat it so quickly, all of it, not to throw it to waste. Because it's
Yeah,
not completely so fast. It just happens like that, and it's just important. The 7 cubic foot, I think it's a great investment. I don't sell freezers. I don't care where people buy it. Again, I'm just saying what I think is useful for me. I also believe you gotta have a generator, some kind of generator. Don't want to sound like doom and gloom here. We were just in a lockdown not long ago, 3 years ago, for nonsense. So anything can happen. You gotta have something to you got to have a plan B, period. So I'm more of a prepper in my mind. I know some people are not, but like I said, I hope this really helps a lot of people just to make some kind of decisions whether or not they're buying from us or any other small farm. We love competition. And the reason is, like you said, the more Davids are going after the Goliath, the better the chance. And Goliath is the big corp, that's taking over two big companies, basically own the entire world. I don't want to go into details on that, but I can send you some that I've done my own research with other farmers that we talked about. It's pretty nasty out there how they cornered so many hardworking people globally, not just Americans, and it's really tough to make it. So yeah, and for number one reason is that. Number two, our customer service is 5 star. Our beef is 5 star. I stand by it. I don't care what anyone says. I would go with my beef against any other farm out there anytime to do competition, beef eating, whatever. But I would support them and say that people need to make their own decision when they look for prices and all that. For 200 pounds, we're at 13.50 a pound, and that's including shipping. And if somebody is close by Arkansas, maybe even 5-6 hour drive, I would even sell it for $10 a pound, and that would include your steaks and everything. That's grass fed. And I had people drive from Oklahoma 6 hours with the SUV and just pick up 200 pounds. So a lot of people did that because they were like, you know what? Yeah, 13.50. I'm just going to go with $10. I'm just going to go in and bring a big cooler. If you do it in the winter months, you're good to go. I mean, that even in the boxes for 6 hour drive, you're fine. That beef will not even start to thaw out unless obviously you put it next to the heater, maybe the top layer might, and you can make those right away. So that's also something that small farms can do versus the big corporations when you are, for your convenience, eating who knows what.
Absolutely, and I can personally attest to that. Like I said, Marko doesn't pay me. I don't, I simply, for the most part, make videos and talk shit online. But one of the things that I've really appreciated is, I've followed you for a little while, and I've seen people have questions, comments, concerns, and I've seen you do the video in negative temperatures in the snow, showing the cows eating. Like it's, try and go get a hold of the ribeye steak that you bought from Costco and get a hold of the cattle rancher that did that and see if they'll talk to you. So I think it's the customer service, absolutely, being available for questions, answering questions, posting stuff online. I love it. I've always had very good interactions with you, Marko. For anybody who wants to know more, their website is independenceark.com. Go check it out. You can check out some of the videos that I've done. Again, most of the time I stay away from trying to talk about the meat. I literally just make videos the same as I do with anything else and let people see it for themselves. There's a bunch of other people that have done the same thing. and I've yet to talk to anybody who's had a negative experience. I really, really appreciate you coming on, Marko. I think it's important to get the word out, not necessarily just about independence, but about, like you said, the small, local farms, and kind of where we're headed. It's always nice to have contacts with where your beef is coming from.
Appreciate it. And like I said, nice almost meeting you in person, Jason. I just wanted to add, we do have a newsletter too. If people are subscribed, they're going to know about these giveaways. We just had $100 giveaway for prime steaks, and we could not locate this person we've been emailing. And it ended up finally, I was going to do a redraw. We were doing on Facebook, but Facebook to me is a complete waste of time. And then my wife said, you know what? I'm just going to do it on X. I said, I think that's better. So we've been doing live on Facebook. We do every couple of months. We just gave out almost 15-pound dino ribs on the last giveaway. That it was actually one of the locals that ended up winning. It's just a randomized selection via emails, and we do it live. So there is no scam here like, oh, I know you, so you're going to win it. So we're going to do it live like that. And for those that subscribe and stay subscribed, will know when the next one is. And I would urge people to find out how Independence Ark, why is the name Independence Ark? I think it's also pretty cool because we had a lot of attacks on the name too. And I'm sure you read some of those comments.
I know the story, and I think it's A, funny, the conclusions they came to, and B, the response was like, I was like, okay, like open mouth, insert foot, like,
it was
well
bad.
done, guys.
Yes. But I try to keep it PG on X, on the Independence Ark. I'm also under the New American, what is it, Realist on YouTube? Yeah, on YouTube, and the New America 77. I get pretty raw out there. My account was banned already a couple of times. I kind of don't care. I really don't. But I try to keep it as professional as I can with Independence Ark. So again, I don't want to blabber anymore and hold your day. I really appreciate it, Jason. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Yeah, go give them a follow. Independence Ark. Check their website. Check them out on X, Facebook, Instagram. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Take care, everybody.